Champion players, champion club. Melbourne wins another one.
Yes, it is! Reece Terry brings up her 200 in style.
Oh, Sam Kerr! And boy, did she hit it sweet! Redemption for Golden State. One of the great playoff runs of all time is complete. The Warriors are NBA champions again.
For all your sports news, reviews, and interviews, you listen to the Sports Desk here on SYN.
Good morning, everyone. This is a Sports Desk. Happy Valentine's Day. This is a Valentine's Sports Desk, actually. So it's going to be full of love. Good morning to Caleb. And Ben's back finally. I'm guessing the SEN deal didn't go through.
No, not at all. Unfortunately, got denied,
Damn.
so yeah, I'm back. Back here. I'll go again, though. I'll go for sure.
Oh, that's good.
Great to have you back,
Yeah,
Ben. And we should mention straight off the top that we've actually fired up the text line this morning. So if you've got any opinions or any thoughts that you want to shoot through to us, you can do so on 04475 19170. That number again, 04475 19170. So give us a message, text us anything through, and if you're lucky, we might even read it out on air.
Yeah, please don't be inappropriate. We can't really say any bad language. It is only 9 a.m. in the morning. Let's jump into the big news. AFLW.
Straight into it.
Yeah, straight into it. Big news. 3 injuries. Two happened during the weekend. One happened before the weekend started. Injuries to Brianna Green, Brianna Davey. Bad weekend to be a Brianna. And Isabel Hutchinson. All done their ACL, all out for the season. Like everything with sport, if something bad happens more than once, it's a big problem. But is it a big problem?
Yeah, so I've read a few things saying that the women are actually 5 times more likely to rupture or injure their ACLs. And as we've seen in the last 2 seasons of AFL Women's, it seems like there's a tendency for women to be more susceptible to those ACL injuries. And a couple of people were saying all kinds of things may play into that factor. The main one being that women haven't had the kind of conditioning that men would have had coming through the junior ranks. So women have played for, a lot of them, the majority would have played for 2 seasons and not had that pre-season conditioning, strengthening of the knee and prehabilitation like the men have had. And now we're seeing that unfortunately come through with Isabel Huntington. Turned the game on Sunday on her head. She kicked 2 amazing goals, got Western Bulldogs out in front, and then unfortunately popped that ACL.
Not only that, she did get christened, and I said this on Monday, the greatest player, I can't remember the commentator's name, but she's the greatest player she's ever seen, kicks the 2 goals, does her ACL, all in 5 minutes. She's
a very scary prospect in that. We just thought she was hitting her straps, and she was probably going to be the Rising Star nomination for the week, and then unfortunately does her ACL.
I thought she got it, didn't she? I know 2
no,
doggies
so
got
it went to 2 doggies, Libby Birch and Bonnie Toogood.
You also got one in the first week, right?
I can't remember who was the first week, to be honest. No, first week was Chloe Malloy from Collingwood.
And someone from Adelaide.
Oh, okay, so
Maybe.
it was double as well.
Yeah, there's always double.
Gotcha.
The one I found interesting was the Brianna Green one, because she got put out of the game against Collingwood, and it was just Brianna Green got out with an injury. Didn't say what type of injury, just an injury. And you see her after the game in a bloody wheelchair.
Right.
Like, give fans a bit more of a what type of injury they have. Not, she's a bit injured, maybe a sore foot. I know she did her shoulder last year and she missed the season.
Yeah.
So maybe it was just redone of her shoulder. No, you see her in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
You think, what the hell?
Yeah, not very good at hiding that.
Yes.
It's very interesting, I find, that the AFL often, this is across the men's predominantly, but often criticise the media for being a little bit too in your face and asking all these questions, but then clubs turn around and do similar things like that and say that players aren't injured. And coming from the media perspective, even though we're young media people, I think that you can't, as a club or as an AFL club, ask for more privacy. And when last year when they were asking for media people not to hassle them on their way out for their cars and things like that, but then turning around and doing things similar to the Brianna Green incident.
Well, the best example I had was 2016, Easton Wood. I knew a girl I went to uni with, and she was friends with his girlfriend and all that stuff. And before the game against West Coast, she goes, Easton Wood's got a really bad ankle.
Yeah. Like the first prelim? Is that what,
yeah. And I was like, he's probably going to need surgery and all that stuff. and it wasn't until after the grand final it turns out that my ankle injury was actually really bad.
Yeah.
So for the whole finals, he played off as like, oh, it's nothing, but I knew beforehand that he had a really bad ankle. But yeah, it's hard to hide someone being in a wheelchair, and it's hard to hide an ACL injury.
Yeah, and there's so many things that would be happening behind closed doors that we as the football public would have no idea that's going on. There'd be injuries happening, there'd be feuds between players, there'd be feuds between coaches and players, and I think the AFL clubs just want the best image put forward of the club possible. So I would much prefer a bit more transparency from the clubs in terms of injuries and just in general. I think if the club's coming out with information, it looks better on them as well, instead of it being a scoop, from the media that, we've found out that this and this has happened and the club lied. That looks a lot worse in terms of PR than if the club comes out and says, this person and this person have done this, and this is what we're going to do to reprimand them.
With the bizarre memo of the AFL to the women's as well, how that happened last week, because it was a terrible week for footy, really.
Yeah.
Did we notice a change? Because I certainly did not.
I don't know. I was when this memo came out last week. So it was Stephen Hocking that put out one to all the coaches, and they were a set of recommendations, so not rules, recommendations, for the game to be played a little bit more attackingly and less congestion. So there was a recommendation for there to be a person 15 metres away from the stoppages. They had to be at least 15 metres away from the stoppages, or the umpire wouldn't ball up the ball, which I thought was interesting. If that's a recommendation, it sounds a little bit more like a rule, because if the umpire's not going to throw it up, it's obviously a rule. It's not a recommendation. But in terms of seeing much of a change, I didn't notice too much of a change. I was under the impression that it wasn't that broken. There was 1 or 2 games that were low scoring in the first week, and there was 1 or 2 games that were low scoring in the second week as well.
And they both involved Carlton, funny that.
That's it, yeah. But you know what? If that's their tactic to win, then they're within their rights to employ that tactic and play like Fremantle do in the men's.
Yeah, like I said, as a Fremantle supporter, I love the defensive play.
Yep.
We'll just mention the fact that Hannah, can you pronounce the last name?
Hannah Mountie.
Mountie. Yes, the lady who got ejected last season to play the AFLW has been accepted to play the VFLW this year. It's going to be very interesting to see how she goes, if she gets picked up by a team. It's going to be very, very interesting.
Hasn't been cleared whether she'll play AFL Women's yet. Just the state leagues, as she's already eligible to play in the Canberra State League. So I think there'll be a few clubs.
Test, to see if the biggest fear of her hurting people, if that is true. If she can go for the season without hurting a single person, she'd probably be easily allowed to play.
Yeah, very interesting.
It's probably a bit harsh to say that, I guess. It's because it's footy.
It's footy, that's it.
Yeah,
you go out there. You go out there.
I understand what you're saying. But
that's the biggest worry, is that she can go out and hurt people. But I think if she plays well, go ahead.
Just let her play.
Yeah.
Let her play, I reckon. If we can send a message out to young trans kids to say that you can play sport and, if you want to play AFL's for everyone, and Hannah Mountie's out there playing, I think that's fantastic and fantastic for the game.
And the last thing about the women's is your votes for the week.
My votes for the week.
And I know your votes, and I'm very happy about it.
3 votes went to Karen Paxman from the D's. I thought she lit up the midfield for the D's, and without Eb Marinhoff in there, she was a class above. Dana Hooker got the 2 votes from me from Fremantle, and the last vote goes to Emma Carney from the Western Bulldogs.
Yes, and with your vote, which means Dana Hooker from Fremantle is now leading.
Oh, really?
Yes,
cool.
On 8 votes. I'm not too happy about that, but after we come back from the song, we're going to be talking about AFLX.
You're listening to Can't Slow Down by Headley. You're listening to Sports Desk here on SYN 90.7. That was Can't Slow Down by Headley. You're listening to Sports Desk here on SYN 90.7 with Ben, Liam and Caleb. And just a reminder also, do text in any of your thoughts on 0447 519 170. That number again, 0447 519 170. So the text line is back here on SYN.
Maybe even text us in. We're going to be talking about AFLX and the squads that have been brought out. So text us through what your thoughts are, maybe of what your team is. Personally, myself, I think we've seen a few undermanned teams come in.
Yes.
I was a little bit excited. Probably the one player I was like, okay, this will be good to see, was Nat Fyfe play for Fremantle.
Yeah, Nat Fyfe for Freo. That's interesting.
Only to be omitted.
Well, that's
yesterday.
what I think.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a thing. It was Freo was looking at the teams like, oh, yeah, everyone's going to choose probably a big name player, and then realised no one picked big names apart from Port Adelaide.
Should have just kept him.
Yeah, I think he should have played. They've got 20. They chose a 20-man side. If they don't want him to play, just chuck him on the bench.
Yeah, seeing him play in the international rules.
Oh, he killed it, didn't he?
He ripped it up. So I think that probably was the theory behind it.
Yeah.
But it's exciting to see Nat Fyfe fit and healthy. Would have been great to see him play because then I think he would have been a shoo-in for everyone's Supercoach teams. Looking fit, looking healthy, looking to regain that 2015, 2016 form.
Yes, when he played against Hawthorn with a broken leg and still probably would have got man of the match. I did the numbers, crunched the numbers, did my stats, and I've gone through, well, this is with Thursday, but how many games played by teams. And Freo is the most with 932 games experience.
Oh, wow.
And West Coast is the least with a whopping 91 games experience.
Yeah, right.
We can see which team's taking it seriously and which teams aren't.
I thought it was interesting. North Melbourne, of all the teams, I thought maybe it's because they haven't really got the cattle, but they did seem to field a relatively strong side. They've got Majak Daw, Sean Higgins. They've got their new recruit, Luke Davies, Uniacke.
Yeah, Uniacke.
Yeah. Luke McDonald, Ben Cunnington. It'll be interesting to see how they go. I think they were involved in a lot of practice matches throughout the preseason, and Sean Higgins and players that are of similar size.
They're kind of the team to start it.
Yeah.
They're kind of really the first team to ever do it.
Yep.
One player from Northampton I'm interested is Paul Arnon, who got picked number 4 in the 2014 draft
from
for GWS. Injury after injury, got traded to North Melbourne, injury after injury. So I think apart from NAB Cup games, it's probably his first real run, and it'll be very interesting to see.
Do you reckon, Ben, are you going to watch the series? Do you reckon have you got interest in AFLX? Yeah.
It's footy.
So, yeah, that's my mentality.
Yeah, exactly. So any form of footy, I'm going to watch it. So, of course.
Same thing, Liam.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of negativity towards the series, but I'm actually kind of...
Everyone's going to watch it.
Yeah,
as much negativity as people want to say.
Complain.
It's because they just want to talk about footy.
Yes.
It's something to talk about, and AFLX, I mean, it's footy. So
I'm
let's
more
watch
interested to see how the ticket sales go at the actual games. I saw them tweet something yesterday that said tickets are now at $10, so getting fast. So I don't know whether that was hinting that maybe the ticket sales haven't gone as well as they expected. But I don't really see big crowds turning up. I reckon there'll be like 10,000 there, maybe.
Also, what was interesting is Channel 7, they're actually not going to broadcast it on on Channel 7. It's actually going to be broadcast on 7-2. The first two games, 7-2.
Okay.
And the final one on the Saturday is going to be on 7-Mate.
Yeah, right.
So it's not being broadcast on the main channel.
Right. Very interesting.
Is that a telling sign?
I think so. I think, irrespective, it's good that it's on free-to-air TV. But, yeah, very interesting that they're not really dedicating that prime-time audience to it. So I agree. I reckon very, very interesting. There'll be a lot of eyes on to see how it goes out this week. And more interesting for me is to see whether the crowds do it. Moving on to the AFL, yesterday there was a bit of news coming out that the AFL put together a task force to come up with a mid-season trade or mid-season kind of draft that was shot down by all the coaches, bar Damien Hardwick, who was pretty keen to get it going. Where do you guys stand on the issue?
I don't know if you can agree with me, but for someone who supports an interstate club, having more chances of your Victorian players leave is kind of a bit of a worry.
Well, I see both the positive and the negatives of it. The positives are, say you're a final side, you can look to bolster up your squad. Say, and this goes for any side as well. Say you got any injuries, you can look to replace them.
Yep.
Negatives are obviously you're just going to be losing players mid-year.
That is like I was saying before the show, that an ideal world is you lose a ruckman, you can grab a ruckman. But
I think it's the future though. I mean, you see it in the NBA and the amount of talk and the amount of hype you get. So we're going to be talking later in the show about the Cavs trade, and their side just looks completely rejuvenated. And the fact that could potentially happen in the AFL, I think it's the future. And I think it's inevitable that's going to happen maybe in the next 5 years. So the coaches, as much as they want to stick with tradition and stick with what has gone on in the past, I think it's a future move, and I think eventually it's going to happen. Yep. It's going to happen whether they like it or not, and it will be good for the game. That Absolutely. Is for sure.
100% agree with you there, Ben. Hardwick came out, and his issue was that Ben Griffiths, who left halfway through the year last year to take up NFL punting, effectively meant that the Richmond were short one player on their list. So if something like
It
that
doesn't
happens,
even have to be just for all-round trades. It can just be for that. Say you got
Exactly,
an injury
yeah.
replacement or a player who does leave
Yep.
for whatever reason it is. They can leave, and I think there was also they were floating around the idea that potentially they may have a list of state league players that could potentially come into the league
Yep.
mid-season. So even that could happen. Any form of a mid-season trade/free agent
Yep.
period, I think, is just great for the game.
And imagine some of the feel-good stories that had come out of
Oh,
that. Like
yeah.
someone coming into a finals team, being a bit of a September hero that was playing state league footy at the start of the year. I think that'd be awesome for the game.
Yeah, that's why I'm on the fence about this. I do agree with the fact that the player coming from the local leagues, like a Ben Griffiths, how Ben Griffiths lead, having a player like that come, but then also having, just say, a Tom Lynch leaving halfway through a season because his team's at the bottom of the ladder.
Right.
And that's the two biggest issues. And I believe, especially with, unlike the NBA, you got 9 teams in Melbourne, and then you have Geelong. With NBA, you only have, I think, 2 teams in one state, one area, which is both the LA teams.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think it's a bit iffy because, again, as someone who supports an in-state club, having a Victorian out of contract is the most scariest thing in the world because you know they've got so many options to go to.
Yeah.
And even having, when Fife was out of contract last year, it wasn't, Fife could go to West Coast. It was Fife could, he's either going to stay with Freo or go to Melbourne.
Yeah. So maybe more of like a mid-season draft then instead of a player trade. So you could draft state league players.
Even if there is a mid-season trade period, Nat Fife's value may be higher in the mid-season than it is. So say, for example, hypothetically, he has a pretty poor late half of the season, his value drops and he won't get as much. Say, and he's going to leave eventually. Let's just say this, and you don't get as much for him. Fife has a stunning first half of the season. You trade him mid-season and you get a hell of a lot more than what you would have got at the end of the season. What would you say for that?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Because there's I see your point as well.
Yeah.
I see, it's very interesting.
And also, I think it also rewards, by not having a mid-season trade, it also rewards the clubs that put in the effort with their pre-season, have good medical staff that keep their players retained and injury-free.
Well, that's kind of the O'Meara trade of last year, how he went to Hawthorn. The main reason why he went to Hawthorn because of their medical staff. And,
Oh, really?
Yeah,
He's looked good so far, though.
Yeah.
To talk about his
he's playing
pre-season.
fantastic, Nick. Yeah.
Yeah.
In that intra-club match, they said he was
intra-club.
by far the best.
And it's like I said, it's a very worrying sign. But
Coming up, we are going to be talking a little bit about the Winter Olympics. You are on the sports desk with Ben, Liam and Caleb. But before that, we're going to go into a song. This is the Preset's new one for you and one for me.
it was one for you and one for me by the presets here on a special Valentine's edition of the Sport Desk on Sin 90.7.
We are going to be talking a little bit about the Winter Olympics, but before we jump into that, just a quick reminder, our text line, which has fired up this morning, is 044 751 9170. Shoot us a text. Let us know what your thoughts are on the Winter Olympics as the Australians have we've got one silver medal now in the moguls, the men's moguls.
Oh, and we finished 4th and 5th, and we're talking on Monday how good the moguls. I think Australia's becoming a mogul country.
Yeah.
We are definitely just a mogul nation now.
We had Britt Cox in the women's,
yes.
and I've forgotten the other lady came 4th and 5th, and then in the men's we had Matt. I've completely forgotten his name.
There you go.
Took out the
Matt
silver.
Graham.
Matt Graham.
Yeah.
But very, very interestingly, coming up is we have the half pipe. I think that's today. So Scotty James will take on Sean White, the final of the snowboard half pipe. Scotty James probably our best chance at a medal, but obviously it's always between Scotty James, Sean White, and I think it's the Japanese guy Ayuminu Hirano. It's always a bit of a toss-up between those three, and good for the sport because I think it's very interesting. That's probably my favourite event, the half pipe on the snowboard.
I like the ice hockey.
Ah, of course, yeah.
What about the bobsled?
Bobsled's pretty cool. I was watching
So I do love curling.
Yeah, I don't mind curling.
Curling.
I don't mind
Really?
curling. Yeah.
Curling's like lawn bowls. You can get very intense at times.
Yeah.
I like the guy that throws the thing at the start and he does it very dramatic and theatrical.
And then yells.
Very interesting sport, curling. Maybe we'll talk about that next week.
Yes. I want to give a shout out to Canada, who I gave an absolute blasting to on Monday for underperforming, has now come out and won 3 goals, 4 silver, and 3 bronze. So good for them. This is why you should listen to me.
There you go. Canada are tuned into Sin
Oh,
on
yeah.
Monday mornings.
They are our number one listeners, Canada, all of them.
They've used it as fuel.
Yes.
So good job.
Yes.
You thank Liam for that.
It's interesting that you've blasted Canada, because the question we put in our run sheet is, should we as Australians sort of be content with our output at the Winter Olympics? It seems that we are very complacent in our, as soon as we get a medal, it's like, we've sent a small team over, so, we should be content. But in a nation that has pretty good snow during the winter, should we be content with what we're doing at the moment?
No, considering the previews of this is Bruce McAvaney saying, this is the best team we've ever had. We're going to win gold. They are absolutely delicious.
Delicious.
That's what they've all been saying. The best team we've sent over so far.
So we should have this one. This one has no excuses compared to any other Olympics because we got promoted as the best team we've had.
Mm-hmm. I suppose the argument would be that there's not snow 12 months of the year.
Exactly. And we're not a very snow-centric country.
No.
Who, supports or
Correct.
plays a lot of these snow sports. But, yeah, nevertheless, I think Australia, as competitive as we are and as the high expectations we have at the regular Summer Olympics, I think we should still have these expectations on the Winter Olympics, especially if, like you said, all these commentators are coming out and everyone's pretty much saying that this squad is the best Australian Winter Olympics squad ever. So I don't think why there shouldn't be any expectations on it, but still there's a little bit of this mindset that, yes, we're not a snow country, that's probably why. So
Correct.
I still think there should be expectation. I agree with Liam.
Yeah, 100%. I find it interesting today, one sport that you can practice all year round is the figure skating, and we've got our first Indigenous Australian to compete, which is Harley Windsor. So we wish Harley all the best. His partner is Katia Alexandrovaskieva. I think I pronounced that right.
Trust you?
Yeah, take the trust there. Another interesting thing that happened in the Winter Olympics was, this was a few days ago, but in the women's snowboard slopestyle,
yes.
which was pretty cool. It was like the sort of almost freestyle snowboarding. The weather conditions turned very sour, and in the end, only 9 out of the 50 runs were completed. So, as in 9 of them didn't end up on their backsides when they were doing the jump. With a lot of the females actually saying that they were just happy that no one died or no one got seriously injured. It was a bit of a disaster for the Winter Olympics in terms of they had already postponed a lot of the other events because of the bad winds, and it was almost like they just said, bad luck, girls, you're going to have to do it. Do you think they got it wrong with this decision, Liam?
Oh, definitely. Anything that causes injury, especially with the weather, it should be always wrong. Don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Olympics, they only come around every 4 years, and for them to not postpone an event like this after postponing other ones as well, and you just saw 9 out of 50 runs pretty much completed.
Yeah.
The rest heavily affected by that. I mean, it's pretty obvious. You just postpone it.
Yeah.
They've worked so hard.
So you've cost people years of their lives.
Correct.
Exactly. Yeah. So imagine that, working 3 years, working your butt off, and then bad weather, all this, and you're done. That's it. So pretty poor.
I think the scores that got the gold medals were considered incredibly low for the event. So it's not great.
Even they'll think, did I really not like did I deserve it, but they won't. I believe they won't feel like they've truly won it. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, 100%.
I think anyway. Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's just a sour note.
Yeah.
Sour
Wait, are you
taste.
talking about Stephen Bradbury didn't deserve to win it, or?
No.
Well, Bradbury's
National
came
icon.
after. Bradbury's came after. Well, because remember was it 1998? I think it was, or the 1994, whichever one it was. One of the previous Olympics. He was actually favourite.
Really?
And then he got taken out by an opponent in I think it was the first round or the second round. So yeah, he was favourite, and then coming on a lot older. For him to do that, he obviously deserved it, but whether or not in that race he deserved it, so everyone's got their reasons for deserving it. But
he did get through the semis as well. It's not like he was the worst skater there. He was obviously he got through the semis. Prime, he made it through. And
in his prime, he was the best in the world.
Yeah,
so he thoroughly deserved it. When you talk about that, when you talk about just the race, maybe not, maybe a bit of luck, but. Yeah, you never know.
Right place at the right time.
You always earn your luck. So
yeah, I agree.
Even for these girls, they would have earned their luck.
Yes,
without a doubt.
Awesome. After this song, we're going to be talking a little bit of cricket, and after that, we are going to be talking NBA. Just a quick reminder again: phone number if you want to send us through any text: 044751 9170. Send us through a text what your thoughts were on maybe the Allan Border medals, if there were any surprises with that. But before that, let's jump into a song. What's the song here? I can't even see it.
This is Mama by Jonas Blue. You listen to Sports Desk on Sin 90.7. That was Mama by Jonas Blue. You're listening to Sports Desk on Sin 90.7 with Ben, Liam and Caleb. And after the Allan Border medal last night, Steve Smith, no surprises there. We are going to be talking a bit of cricket.
Yeah, so we were just talking off air. There was certainly no surprises in the Allan Border medal and the Belinda Clark medal.
Yes,
so,
as well, yeah, Elise Perry.
Allan Border medal went to Steve Smith after what was a fantastic summer. I think he knocked like over 600 runs in the Ashes series
if
alone.
we wipe the one days, he had a fantastic summer.
Interesting stat also, I'll just butt in there. He faced another 75 overs than any other player in that Ashes series.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because I was reading an article this morning. He faced so that's pretty much a whole day's of cricket.
Yeah.
He faced more than any other player, and that can pretty much explain why he was so poor in the one-day series. He was just absolutely knackered.
Well, there was an article yesterday that came out that was just him talking about how wrecked he is. It might have even been a post.
It would have been probably the same one, yeah.
Yeah. So he's just absolutely exhausted. Hopefully getting some rest and recovery before the South African tour.
Yeah.
I don't know when that must kick off.
March.
March, yeah. First week of March.
We're still playing in New Zealand, so...
Oh, we're playing in New Zealand, are we?
Yeah.
You wouldn't...
Yeah, the Tri-Series
crazy.
final. The supposed Tri-Series final.
Hasn't been too much attention to that one.
Well, it hasn't been too much attention to the 2020s. The day, even last week when we spoke about it, there was actually 2020 on that day.
Yeah, well...
Didn't even notice.
We're going to be talking about it a little bit, but...
1st of March it starts, the first
First of March?
Yeah.
Well, that does, again, bring up the point of how do we revitalise and bring interest back to the one-days and the T20s. Were there anyone stiff to miss out? The other recipients of the medal, we had the Don Bradman Young Cricketer of the Year went to Jai Richardson, fast bowler from WA. We had Betty Wilson Young Cricketer of the Year went to Georgia Redmayne from the Hobart Hurricanes. T20 International Player of the Year, Aaron Finch. Men's Domestic Player of the Year was George Bailey. ODI Player of the Year was Davey Warner, which is interesting in light of his recent performances, but obviously had a cracking start of the year. For me, it was very predictable. I think there weren't anyone that you were thinking.
Well, no surprises.
No surprises.
We've the Bradman Young Cricketer of the Year. What's the cut-off age? Because I think Agar would have been absolutely stiff to miss out.
24 years old.
I think Agar's 24.
Yeah, right.
I think.
How old is Agar? He's not. Because when was it? He played in the 2013 Ashes, was it?
Yeah.
So he was 19, I think it was.
So Agar's 24 years old.
Yeah. So I was right. Yeah.
There you
go.
I believe anyone. I think he might have been a bit stiff to miss out because I believe he's probably the best young cricketer going around.
Yeah, right.
Maybe because he's Victorian and the vendetta against anyone that's not WA or New South Wales.
Adam Zampa maybe stiff or
no, he's been out of form.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I don't even think he should have been in the one-day squad.
Yeah,
I think David Warner's a bit. If he didn't even make the ODI Player of the Year, but granted their performance against England, really don't have many good ODI players.
Do they take that into account? The recent one-day series?
Not sure.
Yeah,
I would think so, but. Because they were taking into account the Ashes, so maybe the cut-off is January 1st.
Yeah.
Or the end of the Test series. But yeah, it was a shocking series from David Warner, so still going, hopefully refine.
He's had a terrible run of form with the white ball post-Ashes series, so hopefully He's
had a terrible run of form altogether, really, apart from that 1 century in the Test. He hasn't really played very well.
Yeah.
Past winners of the Don Bradman Award. He's in pretty good steed, Jai Richardson, so he's got Hilton Cartwright from Western Australia last year, Alex Ross the year before, Sean Abbott in 2015, Jordan Silk in 2014. So all the best we wish for Jai Richardson. Hopefully he can take a few more wickets for us in the T20s in the Tri-Series final that I've just learnt is on. As I just mentioned before, in terms of revitalising and bring more interest into the international T20s and one days, Elise Perry has again brought back calls for similar formats to the women's Ashes that were used late last year in October. So it was more of like a point system awarded for one days, tests and T20s. Said that this should be used in more formats. Do you see this happening at all?
Not for the Ashes.
Not for the Ashes?
No.
What about for other international series?
I think international series, yeah. Yeah.
So,
definitely, I think it was a great thing, to be honest.
Yeah. For me, I reckon it'd be a really good way. I agree 100%, not the Ashes, because the Ashes has remained untouched for, 150 years?
Just the Ashes, not like when we play India, maybe in
or the
Australia.
Gavaskar Trophy, yeah.
Easy, but definitely the Ashes has to be the 5 days.
5 day
Five
test.
5 series.
Correct. But I would love to see the men look into it. Whether they do it or not is another thing. Cricket is a huge sport in terms of tradition and following tradition. They don't like to change too much. But I think it might be a little bit of a solution in terms of getting a bit more, like, for the 1 days, for example, I don't really feel like I cared too much that we lost 4-1. I feel like it was almost like we still won the Ashes. Doesn't matter.
Exactly.
The only game I pretty much cared about was actually the Perth Stadium one.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
More for the fact of I wanted to see the stadium and what it looked like.
Yeah, it was the stadium and I didn't care who played.
Yeah.
You know, I agree with you. I think you could even still not... Okay, so the Ashes will still be decided for the Ashes, so for the Test series, so you'll still win it, but you could still use the point system for the whole series and have like another trophy, for example. But yeah, no, you're right, because it'll make the ODI series and the following T20 series, if they do have one, a hell of a lot more interesting, whatever series they play. So I don't say why not.
And I think it'll force both Australia and whoever they're playing to field their best teams. It won't be this player's being rested for an upcoming Test series. It'll be, let's put our best team forward because we want to win this series.
And the Test series, whatever trophy you play for, so like for example against India, the Border Gavaskar, you can still, the Test series, whoever wins that can still win that trophy. However, maybe invent a new trophy, for example, so like a Tendulkar Ponting trophy, for example, for the winner of the entire series. So,
but Kohli's the greatest player to ever live.
Kohli Smith,
according to all the Cricket Australia Facebook comments.
All these Indians.
According to
That's interesting.
Kohli should have won the Alan Border medal because he's very
very stiff.
I think Kohli should have won the best on ground for the Ashes. Actually, he was fantastic.
He dominated, didn't he?
Right.
That's what if you go on Facebook, that is what you'll hear.
We're going to listen to a song, but after this we're going to be talking a little bit of NBA. So again, hit us up on the text line 044751 9170. This is Daddy Yankee's new song, and you're on Sports Desk.
If you've been living under a rock, so at the start of the podcast, at the start of the show, we talked about a mid-season trade period potentially for the AFL. Now, there's currently one in the NBA, and Cleveland, they pulled off one of the craziest roster shuffles of all time. They offloaded 6 players, so that included Isaiah Thomas, Derrick Rose, Fry Wade for George Hill, Jordan Clarkson, Rodney Hood, and Larry Nance Jr.
For those that don't know the players, really they got rid of old people and they brought in a lot of young players. And it was sort of met with a lot of criticism. A lot of people were like, what are you doing? But
paid off so far.
Yeah, they played against the Celtics, who I think they're leading in the East, and they...
No, the Raptors are now. They've been for the last probably the last week.
Right. But, and then they smashed them. They beat them by 30-odd points. Yeah. And now they look like a happier team. There's photos of LeBron smiling on the bench. The bench put down 50 points, which is something Cleveland hasn't been able to do for ages. Obviously too early to tell, but I'd love to know what your guys' perspective is. Is this a good move, or do you reckon the proof will be in the pudding in maybe a month or two's time?
Sorry, they also got rid of Iman Shumpert and Jay Crowder as well. So those are the remaining 2 players.
And they picked up LeBron James' son in 2024.
Yeah.
As we discussed earlier on.
Yeah, because of Dwayne Wade.
Yes.
I
think, as much as I absolutely shat on the mid-season AFL trade deal, this one's a bit more interesting for me. Mostly because there's such a long season, there'd be 82 games. Yeah. And it's really not even a long break. I think it's only a couple of months between the end of the season and start of the season. And this is not a common occurrence. Pretty much it's doing up your entire team. Yeah. But if it gets to Cleveland a win, and maybe if they stop being disrespectful people and booing their team... maybe they can become the champions of the East, but granted, the East is not a strong division. The best team, Celtics, were not the best team at all during the season. And
the Raptors are now top seed.
Yeah, and Toronto Raptors have a history of choking in the playoffs anyways. So
I think they only won their first playoff series. It was last year, I believe it was. Yeah, right. That was the only playoff series win.
Pretty much down to the 2 West teams, the Rockets and the Warriors. But with Cavs coming maybe the East now, would be more rejuvenated, have a better lineup.
I love it. I love this move. I mean, getting rid of all these old players, bringing in some youth. You saw LeBron; he was completely rejuvenated, re-energized. He was absolutely phenomenal in that win against the Celtics and against supposedly the top seed in the East. They are the favourites to win the East, I believe, or one of the favourites. Anyway, the Celtics are. But now the Cavs. even though it's one game, we can say all we want. It is one game. They do play the Thunder, which will be a huge test today at 12 o'clock our time. So, be interested to see how they go against them. Who knows if they'll win or lose, whatever. But it looks, so far, the way they played, they just looked re-energised, and it's great. And this is why the mid-season trade period in the NBA is good. So, like Liam said, it is such a long season, 82 games, and to have this happen with 30 games to go, the Cavs are looking a serious threat. And I believe if they will come out of the East now, with this, if they all still play the way they did against the Celtics, they will come out of the East. Now, it comes down to who they'll face in the West. It should be the Warriors. However, I think they will defeat whoever comes out of the West purely because, so the Warriors, if they have to contend with, they've got to contend with a whole lot more tougher teams than they have in previous years. So they got the Thunder obviously now who are starting to hit their straps. Minnesota probably won't trouble them that much, but in particular the Houston Rockets, they'll probably play them in the Western Conference Finals. We think that series will go to 7 games.
You can't count out the Spurs, though. They're always,
the Spurs
always
also
there.
as well, yes. I forgot about the Spurs.
They are the Sydney Swans and the NBA. They're just there all the time.
They're always there. You cannot forget. I think they've made the playoffs for over 20 years in a row now. So that is an incredible feat for them. But yeah, so you'd think it'd be a 7-game series. And the last time the Warriors went to a 7-game series in a Western Conference Finals was against the OKC Thunder when Kevin Durant was on the Thunder. They lost. They were up 3-1 to Thunder, and then they went on to lose that series.
Yes,
and then the Warriors obviously lost the finals also to the Cavs after leaving 3-1. So if it goes to 7 in the Western Conference Final, the Cavs could win.
Anything is possible. I reckon if
per Kevin Garnett there.
I'm talking very hypothetics here. If Cleveland go on and they have success with their roster, it won't be LeBron that everyone remembers in Cleveland. It'll be their GM. It'll be their general manager, Kobe Altman, that everyone will be praising for his amazing turnaround of the list. And I really do hope that they have a bit of success because it's making them a little bit more interesting, more relevant again.
Yeah. One last thing probably before we go is, so does LeBron stay now?
He's more likely to stay.
Yeah, I reckon. I could see him staying.
See him staying now?
What about you, Liam?
I still think he's gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's probably still gone, but I think these moves are making it more likely he might stay.
Yeah. I'll probably say he's probably 60% gone, 40% staying.
Yeah. It would have been 20-80. Now it's definitely gone down to like a 60-40, for example. Maybe even a 50-50 if they do really well in the playoffs. Yeah. You never know.
Might do it.
Because they're all 25 except for George Hill, who's 31. Rodney Hood's going to be an absolute superstar. Clarkson shooting the absolute lights out, and Larry Nance in his hometown. Never know.
Yeah.
There might be reason to stay.
100%. It's very positive for the future. We've run out of time on Sports Desk this morning. It's been an absolutely cracking show. Thanks so much, gentlemen.
Quick shout out though to Joe Ingles, who is in phenomenal form for the Utah Jazz, who are also on a 10-game winning streak. So Joe Ingles has scored his a third straight game over 20 points. So he's in his prime. He's 28, 29 years old now.
Yeah.
He's in the prime of his career. Great to see him doing well.
Awesome to see Aussies doing well in the NBA. Make sure you tune into Sports Desk on Friday, where they're going to be previewing all the things happening for the week of sport. You're on Sports Desk. Schools on Air's on next. The song? What song we got? We got Gasolina by Daddy Yankee, because we loved the last Daddy Yankee song so much. Thanks heaps. You're on Sports Desk.